Hi, hello, Happy New Year's. In this video, I'm going to show you how I set up a VR spectator mode, VR preview, so that whatever is seen on my end, through the headset, the clients, you guys as I'm recording the video, as well as my colleagues, can see on the screen in a nice way. The problem is that, well, first of all, you don't need to use VR spectator mode or camera for this. You can just directly feed, what's happening here to the screen as you press the little play button here, and that works. Of course, that's how I showcased this building, which is a Ryanji house that we have bought in Japan. There's a whole video series coming out on the second channel. I'll leave a link to it in the video description below. That's exactly how I showcased this house by just simply feeding whatever I'm seeing directly onto the screen. But there are some issues that comes with that. First one being the jitter. Jitter meaning shakiness. If I press play here, you can see that it's quite shaky, and even if I try to be as smooth as possible, yeah, that works. But the problem is that people, as they talk, they shake their heads, they move their heads around, and we do a lot of micro adjustments, which over time becomes very, very annoying for other people, the spectators, to deal with, and they get motion sickness and whatnot, right? So what we want to do is we want to eliminate that. We want to smooth out the camera movement, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is we will want to have as good of a quality as possible when we do that. Third thing is we want to have a screen that is showcasing what's happening, right? What the VR user sees. The screen should be big enough, right? Should be in the correct size. I guess the size of the screen is the easiest one to do, or to show how to do, so we'll start with that. If I click these three little dots here, and I go to Advanced Settings, this window pops up, Game Viewport Settings. Here, I can type in any resolution that I want. In this case, I have typed in the resolution of my main monitor. Thus, when I press play, it initially makes it full screen, right? So we see the full screen of the preview. Easy as that. You can do rectangles, whatever resolution you want, you can do. Oh, sorry, I meant squares. You can do, right? So that's here. Second thing is the smoothness, right? How do you set up the smoothness? And for that, you do need to use a separate camera, a special camera that is going to be following your headset, and then you don't want to see directly the feed of your headset on the screen. Instead, you want to see the feed of the camera that is smoothly following the position of the headset, if that makes sense. Thankfully, such a camera exists as long as you're using VR template. If you open up your content drawer, you go to content, you will have your folder called VR Spectator folder, and here you have a VR Spectator blueprint class. Drag and drop it into your scene. I already have it here. I believe it's, yep, there we go. It really doesn't matter where it is. I just placed it at 000 location. Doesn't matter where it is, right? So just have it in your scene, and then let's edit it a little bit. Double click on it, right? Which opens up this, basically its menu, right? And you have three tabs: Viewport, Construction Script, and Event Graph. Viewport shows how it looks like. We don't care. We care about the event graph. Yours might have more stuff going on here. I basically removed all of the unnecessary bits that I don't use and only left the begin play portion of this. And here, as we go through the begin play, once the game starts, what it needs to do, right at the end, you can see that it enables VR Spectator. So it enables itself. The issue with it is that Spectator enabled, this trigger right here, or this boolean in this case right here, is set to no by default. You can see here, as I select this variable, Spectator enabled, that is unticked. I will tick mark it so that when begin play when the game starts, when we press the play button, this basically always will give true, which will trigger enable VR Spectator. So the VR Spectator will always be enabled. And when I say VR Spectator, it's basically a camera that keeps taking, pictures, 60 pictures per second or whatever, and it keeps feeding them into your onto your screen, right? That's how the preview works. Right, let's press play. And yep, we see what the camera sees. Now it doesn't matter how I move my goggles, right? The camera is kind of locked at that 000 position and just looking at the bottom of a rock. In your case, it might be even uglier, and that is because I have changed the settings of the camera. This is going to be important a little bit later on. I'll show you what kind of settings I changed, but by default, the VR Spectator has pretty crappy settings, which we will need to adjust. That's later. For now, let's make it smooth. First, we make it smooth, then we make it pretty. What we want to do is basically we want the camera, the VR Spectator camera, the VR Spectator camera to slowly move to the position where our headset is in the virtual world, right? And to look at the same direction. To do so, we first need to ask, well, where is our headset in the world? And to do so, I will right click and I'll type in get player, something with get player camera manager. There we go. This is the camera of the headset, right? And basically from it, we want to get its transformation. Transformation consists of three things. It's basically a junction of three things. It's location, rotation, and scale. All three of them combined means transformation. We don't care about scale, of course. We only care about location and rotation, but still, we will use transform. Get actor transform. And I did it kind of quickly. Let me do it again. I drag off from this output of return value, and then I type in get actor transform, like this. So this will spit out a a transformation, so location, rotation, scale of my headset in the virtual reality space. Exactly what we want, right? Then I want the location and rotation, and I don't really care about scale, but we're still gonna get that, of this VR Spectator that we're currently editing, of the camera. So to do so, I will just get actor location. Just here. Sorry, not location, I'm being stupid. Get actor transform. There we go. And you can see by default the target is self, meaning it gets its own transform, right? So the at the beginning of the game, its own transformation is going to be location 0, 0, 0, rotation 0, 0, 0, scale 1, 1, 1. That's in my case. In your case, if you just put it anywhere else, it will have different number. Doesn't matter, right? So we have the initial transformation. We basically have where we are, and we have where we want to go. How do we go there? Well, we use T interp 2. Transformation interpolation towards. T interp 2. Bam, this one. Asks for current is where we are at. Ask for target is where we want to go. And asks to give it, a counter, basically the delta time, how fast the time goes. And the delta time is get world delta seconds, like so. And then interpolation speed, the bigger the number, the faster it goes, the faster it kind of snaps into place. So I will just say interpolation speed, actually let's do 1. Let's do 1 so that you can see, a very smooth version of it before we continue. Then this transformation needs to be applied back onto the actor itself, the VR Spectator actor itself. So we will use set actor, not get, set actor transform. set actor transform, the new transformation, orange goes to orange, right? Like so. Target is self because it moves itself, and basically we're done. Well, not quite. The last bit is that there needs to be a trigger that constantly triggers the set actor transform to update. And the only thing that does that, well, there are multiple things, but the thing that we will use is called event tick. Basically we'll fire off every frame of the game. Careful with this. This is quite expensive in terms of computational power because it fires off every frame. So if you put on a lot of things onto the tick in a VR preview, not VR project, it's going to bog down the performance quite a bit. In this case, we're transforming one thing, so it's not that big of a deal. Okay, the setup is done. Compile, save, play. We investigate. This is very dark. 1 second. I'll show you one thing that you might, oops, my bad. This is going to be the next tutorial. See this light switch here? Oop. See how brighter it got? The lamps turn on. If I boop, turn off the lamps, let's look at them. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, but that's later. But basically now you can see a very smooth version of this kind of a movement, which is maybe a little bit too much. So the number that I found works quite well for me with my jittery head is 4. Interpolation speed of 4 seems to do the trick. And if I press play now, hoppa, hoppa. If I move fast, it still follows along quite well. Actually, let's turn around. Oops. That's my bad. There we go. Yeah. So that seems to work, right? Smoothing is done. Now, what you see on your screen and what I see on my screen might be quite different because the scene capture component, this is the component that is responsible for getting the image onto the screen, right? From the headset. Well, not really the headset anymore because it's its own thing following the headset, but still. This is not doing a good job in your case of capturing the screen, right? It's ugly. Let's make it less ugly. To make it less ugly, we need to change a few settings here, and I have already changed them. So basically, I'll just guide you through the main settings that I change. It's basically this object, the scene capture component 2D, has its own post-processing volume, meaning its own set of settings. Most important one being scene capture right here, which basically is responsible for how the scene is captured, of course. And here are the settings. Basically, capture source, I use final color with tone curve in linear sRGB gamut. This is, by the way, Unreal Engine 5.5.1. So this seems to work the best and gets me the closest result to what I see on my headset. Final color with tone curve in linear sRGB gamut. Very important setting. Render scene primitives. Not the legacy one, the normal one. Then, I'm not sure if these matter, but capture every frame, capture on movement are both turned off. Always persist rendering state is turned on. I don't remember. I'm sorry. Use ray trace if enabled is very important. I can actually show you what happens when I don't. Compile, play. Give it a second. As I look around, you can see, okay, let's look at it this way. See the shadows, the weird shadows? That is because the light is not ray traced anymore. Also, I'm losing a little bit of not computation of performance because of this. hardware ray tracing is great. So use ray tracing if enabled. If that is turned on and we look at it again, see, very smooth, very nice light. Okay, so that's what it does. Then with those settings kind of done, you still will see a pretty ugly ugly view. The thing that really makes a difference is if you go to a little bit above to your lens setting, not lens setting, sorry, the post-process volume settings, and you go to global illumination, tick mark lumen, and under lumen global illumination, these are the settings that in 5.5.1 I feel like work the best with RTX 3080. Ray lighting mode, surface cache, hit lighting seems to be buggy as hell for the VR Spectator only, by the way. Lumen scene lighting quality as well as scene detail are 0.25, so they're set to a very low value. Lumen scene view distance is 50 meters in my case, could be even smaller. Screen traces, I have them turned off because this also bugged out. And max trace distance was 80 meters, but it doesn't really matter. Under advanced settings, update speeds are set to be 0.5, so the scene updates slower, but that means that it requires less resources, which is great. Then under reflections, also mode lumen, and lumen reflections I have quality set to 1, that's fine, that seems to work quite well, and screen traces I do have them turned on for reflections, so that works, and that saves quite a bit of costs. I believe there should be rendering features. There we go, mega lights. I have them turned off. This makes it so that I can have as many lights as I want in the scene, and as you can see, they can still be dynamic, and it works really well. What else? And in terms of quality settings, that's it. Then in terms of just general settings that I use for the scene, I believe under lens for bloom, I use convolution filter rather than standard method. Much higher quality bloom. Intensity, I use a pretty low intensity for this. Then I don't use, I only use manual exposure. I don't use the auto exposure because I want dark things to really become dark, right? And when I turn on the light, I want it to be bright. Well, and then exposure compensation 10 stops. Then under image effects, I have vignetting turned on 0.4, and lens flares. I do turn them on here for the capture, but I don't have them in the VR headset because those messes with your eyes. Okay, and those are basically the main settings for the scene capture to make it as nice as possible and to get what I get, you know, in the scene. Right. I think with that, we're kind of, are we done? Let me just press play, see if I forgot anything. This should be a full screen look. Oh, it's lagging. But it should be a full screen look with, yeah, pretty good quality for the preview. And yep, the light is great. The shadows work. I can't wait for 50 series GPUs from NVIDIA. I will most likely get a 5080. So at that point, Lumen is going to be a default thing for VR. And I'm super excited about it because the quality, even now, you know, with 3080, which is becoming quite old of a graphics card, even with the quality of 3080, we're getting a pretty good, how do you call it? Give me a second. Like we're getting a pretty good performance, and it's quite convincing in terms of how it acts, how it looks, and so on. I can't reach the, oh, okay. Right. Even the glass looks nice. So I wonder if you see the glass, yeah, exactly. The spectator mode sees the glass in the exactly same thing. This scene, as well as every other scene that I do for this channel, is available for Patreon supporters. Link in the video description below if you want a full rundown through this scene, because this is a building that we are currently working on in Japan, a Ryoanji house renovation project. That is also a link in the video description below for that whole renovation project series. And besides that, there's still going to be quite a few videos coming out about VR, because I saw the Nvidia post and about the new graphics cards, and I do see that finally we have enough processing power for people to actually run these heavy, well, not that heavy, but lumen scenes on their PC VR setups. Finally, we're here. Leave a comment if you're buying the RTX 50 series graphics cards. I'm really curious to see or to hear how many people are planning on buying it, if you're going to buy instead a discounted 40 series graphics card, and blah, blah, blah. Leave a comment. And I'll see you in the next one. Later. Bye.